the Blue Jays in this game. B.J. Davis with a career-high 18 points. 1, Brian Dutcher's team, what'd they show you? 2, how concerned are you about Greg McDermott's team?
Let me start with Creighton because I am concerned. I am concerned even when they get Ashworth back. This isn't the Creighton team that we've seen the last couple. They don't have enough weapons. Too much is on Pop Isaacs. Ryan Kalkbrenner's 49-point performance against UTRGV was I hate to say it, but a one-off. He just doesn't demand the ball. And again, it's easier to defend this Creighton team because they don't have a lot of guys that can put on the bounce on the floor and make plays. So much is on, Neal and Isaacs, and those are two guards that are coming over to a system that they don't know at all. It's going to take time, and I'm not sure. Again, they're going to figure this thing out. Ashworth should be back in, I'd say, a week. He could play Saturday. It sounded like he worked out before the game today, but he'll help. He'll help definitely, but he's not going to be the difference maker. And San Diego State played great. I mean, they're sophomores. Miles Bird's going to be a stud. He's so talented, and he's got some shit to him.
Too.
Yeah, they kind of resemble more of like the San Diego State teams that you remember from a few years ago. They got a bunch of bigs they rotate in, and these two sophomores have made a huge jump. And, Dutch, the one thing Dutch said is, listen, guys, we played great tonight, he said, but tomorrow we could absolutely stink it up, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Rob, coach. You're concerned about Creighton.
Yeah, I am. The biggest issue with Kalkbrenner, I don't think that the 49-point thing was like a one-off, like Jeff said. But the problem is that Kalk needs service. He needs somebody to get the ball to him. And when you don't have a point guard out there on the floor, how are you going to get the ball to your big guy? You're going up against one of the most, the toughest, most physical defensive teams in college basketball in San Diego State. And look, I think Pop is really, really good, but he ain't a point guard. That's not what he's built to do. That's not what he's out there for. So I think that is tough. I also think I don't want to read too much into the Nebraska loss because I thought Nebraska just threw a really, really, really smart defensive. They had two guys on Kalkbrenner the entire game. They fronted him and had a guy over the top and just said all right, try to get the ball to him. We dare you to do that. And if you aren't going to beat us with threes, go ahead. We don't think you have the shooters. So for me, if Creighton gets Ashworth back in the next week and it's not as serious as it kind of looked initially, and they can get Fedor Zugic, that's the big thing for me, because they would then have another weapon and another guy that can get you
Rob, I talked to McDermott about him today, and 6'4", more of a shooter. Right now, I think it sounds like there's some legal action going on between he and his lawyers to try to get him eligible here soon. Here's what I'll say. Again, I think he'll help, but he's missed a lot of time. He's older, so that's the positive. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be a game changer like Igor is at BYU or some of these other guys are. He'll be a piece, and they need more pieces. They just
he'll be a good piece. He's a double-digit scorer, maybe a 12 to 13-point per game scorer, and a guy that'll shoot 40% from three. But you're right, he's not a top 5 pick in the draft like Igor Niman is. I don't think anyone said that.
Before we go to break here,
again, I don't think they have enough. I just don't think when you watch this Creighton team,
they don't.
Yeah, they just don't. They don't look the part of a team that's going to have that high upside. I think we all just kind of sometimes you just give somebody the benefit of the doubt and the credit, and I think that's what we've done now with Greg McDermott. Not to say they can't finish in the top 4 or 5 in the Big East, because really it's not going to be that hard to finish in the top 4 or 5 in the Big East.
No.
Well,
Go ahead, Mike.
real quick on Creighton. And I thought Brian Dutcher deserves a ton of credit because just like Nebraska, they got the low hold guy on the backside. We're not going to let you throw it over the top. We'll go in rotation. We're fine with that. Every time you set a screen, Ryan Kalkbrenner, when you roll, our tag man is elbowing you in the ribs. You're going to feel us. Creighton, it's a far departure from who they were last year, right? You don't have, the reason why they took care of UConn at home last year was because they had movement shooters. They had Ashworth can shoot off movement and off the bounce. Shireman can shoot off movement and off the bounce. Trey Alexander shoot off movement and off the bounce. They don't have that anymore. And so teams can just load up on Kalkbrenner because, again, like to your point, Jeff, like they don't think anybody else can beat them from the outside. And so when you play the defense that Creighton plays, which great, you're the best team in the country at not fouling, but you also don't turn teams over. So if you don't turn teams over, teams are finishing with shots on the rim. Like San Diego State today was like, cool, we'll shoot floaters in mid-range and put pressure on the rim if you're going to give us that. But if you're not good enough offensively, I don't know if you can play that way defensively. So the question for me is like, does McDermott just kind of stick with what he's doing defensively? Or does he say we got to get maybe a little bit more aggressive? Can we force a few more turnovers a game to get Pop Isaacs out in transition to get us going? Like that's the question. But also, I mean, you made the point. The Big East is outside of maybe the top 2, maybe 3, like a top 4 or 5 finish in the Big East certainly feels feels possible for maybe any team in the Big East.
Who's the top 2 in the Big East right now? That's a fun question to answer. We'll probably get to that in the next segment.